Well, we're having a governance nominating.
I didn't hear you.
Did you get one of these?
In-person
Yeah,
service today.
no,
You
they're
can't
gonna pass
go
around when the time comes.
Thursday.
You are.
Good morning. Welcome, everybody. The first item is the minutes of November 8th.
Are we online?
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Slate of officers.
Yeah,
Is that what
no, this isn't the slate,
No.
this is the renewals. The slate would be,
Yes.
gonna be on the board.
This is the annual election of the officers of the board,
Yeah.
which,
Who's gonna be the chairman, who's gonna be the
right.
treasurer, who's gonna be.
So I believe, Madam Chair, the thought was that the current officers would be recommended to the board for re-election.
We're recommending them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be,
So treasurer, vice chair, and chair, and you
Yeah.
want to continue.
So
Okay, so
we get to recommend ourselves. Huh?
Yeah.
so you would have the David as the chair, Jim as the vice chair, Sarah as treasurer, Sarah as the secretary and ethics officer.
Right.
Right.
So without any objection from those.
So having us vote on that
If you
is
need,
not a
if you
conflict.
need a
of
motion, I guess I'll be the one making that
There you
one.
And then we'll start with the nominating speeches. Well, before demonstration in support of.
is that done annually?
Yes.
Technically, we should all abstain, right?
No, you're allowed to vote for yourself. Like in any other thing. All right.
Sometimes some people vote twice.
There's a motion, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Committee charter review update. I don't know if you got my note.
Yes, Andy had provided us earlier in the month with draft charters. I know Sarah had some questions, I had some questions. I think it's a good step forward that we have them. And I think one thing that we perhaps should consider is this committee sending these to each of the individual committees to review their own charter first, to be sure that these are the things that they do, or there are things that they feel they should do that aren't listed there. And I mean, that's what we do at the bank board. That the governance committee makes sure everyone has a charter, but the charter first goes to the committee, the loan committee, the executive committee, just so that individual committee would approve it, send it back to governance and nominate it, and then send it on. And we could look at your comments and
Yeah,
incorporate
I would
those.
like to meet first because
Yeah.
I don't find the consistency that I wanted in there.
Yeah.
So if I
So
can
let's-
meet with Andy or somebody.
So why don't we review, the three of us can review that, and then at our next meeting, we get the input from the individual committees after that effort, and then bring it back to the full board.
Is
Yeah,
anything in the draft? in the
Well,
draft
and just to be clear, so what we did, and what I did, is I took the model charters that are out there, and I took what we had, and I incorporated them. What I didn't want to do is start making substantive policy decisions on those charters. So basically what you have is a blank slate. And there may be certain inconsistencies, but I didn't want to be changing policy without you looking at it. See what I mean?
So why don't we review it with Sarah?
But they're model charters. I
From
mean,
the
this is
ABO.
what the ABO is putting out there.
Yeah.
So, so we have that. It doesn't mean we can't change it. We have full home rule over that, but it's kind of like, where do you start, right? You
Still-
gotta have a base.
How much of it is different?
It's not really all that different.
It's just the formatting, I think.
Right.
And
Yeah,
how it's laid
there
out.
was some important things I thought got left out. So I will meet with Andy and you, and we'll talk over that. And then I suggest if we're in agreement, then we could send them out to the committees.
And then bring
Or
them back.
also send all of you, all four charters and.
And I think, Lisa pointed out to me this morning that, we have charters in place. So this is an amendment of charter. And
Right.
so the ABO, if they came in tomorrow, we have charters and we're working on improving them.
And I think at the first meeting, all the committees need to approve their charter for the year. So those can be approved, just knowing that there's.
It's going to be amended
updates
later.
coming along. Okay, so I guess we don't really vote on anything. No need to vote on anything
At this point.
there. Discharge duties.
So we have the list, is that correct?
Last.
And there are drafts of the committees I see are in
They're all in there.
today. So
It's right after
This is just the ratification of the activities
Yeah, 11 pages.
that the committee carried out during the course of the year, which then will be incorporated into the submission to the authority budget office. I believe, Lisa prepared this after reviewing minutes and
All right, you're on the page.
Oh, here it is.
during 2022, the Governance and Nominating Committee, recommended, interviewed, reviewed, completed, discussed,
I found it.
Fell asleep.
There. They got it.
there you go.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
okay, thank you.
And again, this is just a recap of what the committee has done this year, and each of the committees will do this as well as the board. And that this information will be used to complete the annual authority budget filing and report.
Everybody happy with those?
It looks like it.
Okay, can I have a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Policy review.
Yes, Lisa's also prepared in the packet the policies that are listed here. The equal employment opportunity policy, the procurement policy, the property acquisition policy, property disposition policy, whistleblower policy. These are all required by the state that we, as part of our governance, that the organization has these in place. And we would ask the committee to approve them and recommend them to the full board for adoption.
Are there any changes?
I had a question. I think we've changed, I don't know if it's, I assume it's reflected in here. The levels that you're allowed to do without our approval, occasionally change some.
Right, I think that's in the procurement policy,
Right.
and
Has that been updated to?
right, it's procedures for the purchase of commodities, equipment, and goods under $20,000. Up to $2,000 is at the discretion of the CEO. Thought we had raised that to 5,000.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And so we will update that. And then, 5,001 to 10, we need verbal quotations from at least 3 vendors. And then 10,000 to 20, we need written fax quotations. And again, part of the issue is, with commodities, and when we buy a laptop, we get the quote from the vendor that we use, and then we go online and see what we could get it out on Amazon without the service or warranties, and you make a comparison. You know, when we look at anything more than 20,000, you know, if we go back up to procurement A, we make the CEO or designee is authorized to make the initial determination. Under section 103 of the general municipal law, competitive expenditures or competitive bidding is required for more than $35,000 for services, labor, and construction, and more than $20,000 for any purchase contract for commodities, materials, supplies, or equipment. You know, one of the things that doesn't factor in here are professional services. We are responsible to get quotes, but we don't have to do the competitive bid or the lowest. And that's on page I'll put some page numbers on these. On the third page of this, exceptions to bidding, emergencies, where if we passed a resolution waiving those requirements, where there's a sole source, where it's a lease, where it's insurance premiums of $3,000 or less, where it's professional services, MWBE, and the like. And those are right out of the statutes. And when, you know, professional services are not subject to the procurement policy. And that's because not only do you need to be looking at costs, but you need to be looking at expertise, reputation, and experience, and your ability to work with the professionals that you're engaging.
Okay,
And with our insurance, we're under $3,000 for the total package, I suppose, for both CEDC and the IDA and CRC. I suppose you could say each policy is separate, which would mean that they're all under 3,000. But in the aggregate, they're under 3,000. Several years ago, most of the insurance had been with First Niagara because of aggregation of local agencies and the like. And we did go out to bid, and we received quotes from 3 local insurance agencies, and the IDA went with one and CEDC went with the other based on pricing and reputation.
so right now, are we still using different insurance companies?
For the IDA, well, for the IDA and for CEDC, yes, but each entity has all of their insurance with the same company, so that you're not in a situation where one carrier, and we do have liability policy, and we do have the director's officers insurance and the appropriate employee related coverages.
Do you want to consider the raising number 4 for public works from 3 to 5 so that it matches
The other,
commodities?
I want to see why we should.
Yeah.
well, and with the oversight of the finance committee and also going there, I think we do report anything significant. When we retained a consultant to assist with the strategic plan, we didn't get board approval, but there was board awareness of it. And
Yeah, is our insurance now with Finger?
it's with the Philadelphia Insurance Company, and Finger is the agent. Metz Woods is the agent for the IDA and CRC.
Okay, I just think it's good that we're all aware of that. Any other comments on the other policies? I know we have some others, like I saw that we have an anti-nepotism policy.
Right,
Other
none of
things,
us
but
are related that we know of. But I didn't ask anyone to take an ancestry test to prove it.
But that's not a state required one.
No,
So we
well, I
just-
think, when, I think it's a good policy, but, I know, look in government, I mean, they're in a small town, are you, is your sister in another department, is your cousin
Right.
on the hall? I mean, it's, and that becomes the same issue with, professional services and conflicts. They're
I
quite-
think just as long as we're all aware.
Yeah.
that it's
But we-
disclosed and then
Yeah.
there's no problems.
And I think that, it would be more relevant, I think, if there was someone who was related to a board member, than we're related, staff are
Yeah.
related, but I think we would have to bring it to the board because of this policy.
And I think I'm one of the whistleblower notification people. and
Yes.
So far, I have not had any a reason to use this title.
And one of the things that we are working on, we are meeting with Elena DeFio-Keen every 2 years. We review and update our employee handbook, primarily because of the changes in state and federal law that have occurred since the last edition. Our plan is to review that with her. We have some archaic policies with respect to earning PTO. When you do earn it over the course of the year, so that it's not as if you're entitled to 4 weeks, you don't get it all on January 1. If you leave at the end of June, you only qualified for 2 weeks, but you can take it prior to that. But we're finding no one is in a position to come to work for a 2-week vacation. So we're looking at how we would modify that. And in fact, the only issue is that people who were here for 20 years and back in the day had to wait 5 or 6 years to get 4 weeks vacation. But in this day and age, I think that we are looking at that. Our plan then would be to, once she gets us an updated draft, to review it with the staff and then bring it to this committee to review at the board level and then submit it to the full board to approve.
You mean the full employee handbook?
Yeah, the full employee.
Yeah.
And I do think that one of the things that we were looking at was the fact that we had a continuation of employment policy. If you were sick, we would pay you for 30 days. And now with family medical leave with the state, it overlaps. And how do they? Do you no longer need the underlying policy? Do you limit the underlying policy to make the employee whole because the state only gives you a percentage of it? We just wanted to be sure that someone reading it could understand what their benefit was. And if, unfortunate, they were out for 30 days, are they entitled to both? I mean, so we wanted to make sure some of the, where state law has changed, we wanted to be sure that a policy that we may have had in place was consistent. And there were some policies, Jessica looked at it for me as well, where we both read it and we had no idea how you would implement it. And some in terms of family medical leave and some of the other, you'd have to dissect sentences and create a chart
Yeah.
if someone went out on a particular type of leave.
Okay. Now we need to approve all of these policies given the changes to the procurement policy.
I would move that all 5 of these policies be adopted, incorporating the change in procurement policy.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Review of board and committee attendance report. I think it's been pretty good lately, but some of the people we were worried about have been showing up to meetings. Anita Audi seems to be back with us, so we're just gonna.
One of the issues we have to look at is whether under our bylaws she can continue to serve. She indicated to me that living in Ulster County, and working in Saugerties as well. And she is with a credit union that doesn't have business in Columbia County. So, you know, I have talked to her about that, but we do need to go through that review because I think our bylaws require that a board member either work for an organization, and then entity that's in the county or live in the county.
And that they'd be a member.
And that group would have to be a member.
Right.
So
Right.
we're working through that because, you know, she's been a very valuable board member and, you know, very active before her medical leave. And so we do need to have
Okay.
a look into that further.
Let's see what the term.
And also Lisa, excuse me, Lisa handed this to me a while ago. It's been passed around to most everybody. I've got one more here. It just shows who's going off, whose terms are up.
Yeah.
And with the exception of Brian Stickles resigning, no one's term is up. Some people are renewing for the second time, but am I right, Lisa?
Yeah, I think we have one,
We have no opening.
well, except, well, Brian Mahoney came in.
Brian,
I
Mahoney,
think maybe we have one opening with Brian
Not now.
Stickles not here.
I
No,
think Brian
but-
Mahoney filled Stickles' place,
You know,
Yeah.
right?
we have
We
17
have 17.
right now, so it will, you know, it will really depend on how it works out with Anita.
And we do have one person
Candidate.
interested from Bracken Green County as well, right?
Oh, yeah,
But we don't have a seat for him right now.
okay.
Who was that?
What's his name?
Justin Goldman?
Justin Goldman. Yeah, it's nice because everybody's coming to all the meetings and when we have
is.
the full board meeting, we can't even fit at the table. So it's very, very nice. And the committees,
And
basically, we have the new people to put on. I'm in communication with Anand about his committee, and he's had some attendance problems, but he'll be back in February. And Mike Johnson, I can't, did he want workforce? I can't. I haven't
That
seen him
sounds
talk to,
Yeah.
but I'll see, because all the committees have at least 5 people. And that's one of the things on the charters. We need to make that consistent, that they all need a certain number or don't need a certain number. So,
And those are the only two that need committees.
yes,
I think we talked to Brian Mahoney about finance.
yeah. And who else? Yes, he asked for finance, so if that's okay with you, I'll. That's okay. And yeah, that's. I think we're all.
And what committee is it on?
Hmm?
What committee is it on?
I haven't put him on a committee yet.
Oh, you don't say. Do you say?
I would think he might want work for it. He was really enthusiastic about the workforce.
Who was that?
A non.
Oh, no.
Well, and with his, you know, business background in the insurance field, maybe loan committee.
Yeah. Actually, I think I suggested that to him because Anita was floating between finance. She couldn't make that meeting and then so we'll take her off all those committees. Loan has 5 altogether. I don't think you want me to go through all the members, but I think they're all, everybody's been coming, contributing, enthusiastic. So thanks to all those people. So we need a approval for that,
So
the
moved.
attendance report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Committee appointments and members, so I just went through that. annual meeting planning.
Yes, yeah, we have our annual meeting scheduled for Tuesday, April 25th. We have historically had the event at Kozel's. We will reach out this week to ensure that that date works for them. You know, last year we did come back after having 2 annual meetings virtually, and that we had a good attendance, and you know, we had Adam Bosch, the president and CEO of Pattern for Progress, as our speaker. As you know, the 2 previous years we had Dr. Drummer, and for several years before that, in succession, we had Hugh Johnson. One of the things that you know, we talked about the board openings. We generally do a bylaw review so that if there are any bylaw changes that the membership needs to ratify, they're done on an annual basis. And you know, as we look forward towards a keynote speaker, we wanted to get some input from this group. I think, you know, Carly did a phenomenal job on the workforce education piece. Adam was terrific in terms of talking about the economic disparities within the Mid-Hudson Valley region. And I also think he did put a focus on housing and some of the other issues that the supervisors have us looking at. But you know, I think if you could give us some idea of the type of topic you'd like to hear about, we can then identify some potential speakers, or you may have individuals that you'd like to have us consider.
Well, Hugh Johnson was always so great.
I never met a one-armed economist, on one hand and on the other hand.
I mean, it'd be nice to focus on the economy in general, but that tends to get political, and,
Yeah.
and so might not be the best.
Maybe with a focus on, like, you know, employment and jobs, because where that kind of goes to
It
everything.
does, either that or housing.
We did
seems to be a
housing,
hot
but-
button.
One person that is you know, Martha and I looked at, there's the former county administrator from Warren County is now with Ian Communications, and you know, my only concern was you know, he has a great perspective. Warren County is about the same size as Columbia, has some of the same issues, being a county that's employment is heavily focused on hospitality and tourism and service sector jobs. But I was concerned that, you know, he is, you know, would it appear that we were promoting him in the marketing of his new job at a private sector communications firm with other local firms here in the county. We can pass an article around. Ryan Moses is his name. He was in state government for a number of years in his early career. We also had looked at a fellow who was at one point working at what's called 518 Accelerate, which is a incubator that's housed at the University of Albany. I also think that Chris Nardone from the Workforce Board, you know, he spoke at a number of events, including the event that the Workforce and Education Committee attended that the college sponsored a week ago. He's very energetic, very knowledgeable. He's very focused on the needs of people at the margins, but he also is focused on the employment characteristics and needs of businesses in the 2 counties. I don't know. We've never done a panel. I don't think. No, but again, you know, we pretty much are working our way out of broadband. Housing, I do want to introduce Chris Brown, who's starting in
Oh, I thought I was next.
today. And Steve Vandenberg, who started last Monday, a week ago, right? He came back the second day. Chris is here the first day. It's a wonderful world. We did great selections. But, and we do have our housing task force meeting next week. I think Adam did a good job last year, but I don't think we should have the same speaker every year in a row. And I think, he's on a circuit and the information is similar.
I think Chris Dardo is an excellent choice.
I think,
Yeah. Whether he'd do it or not, I don't know.
he would. I mean, and, he was, first time I saw him give a real, solo presentation was Carly had him as the auctioneer at the dinner, on the foundation dinner. And I thought, he really, and then he spoke at the community colleges foundation and governing boards retreat that I participated in as well. And got a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of knowledge on the workforce in the county.
I mean, if he did that at the just previous workforce meeting that we had at the college, the educators spoke to us, and then we were going to go into next steps, and we still don't know what those next steps are going to be, except that they would likely include some employers, maybe. So does this somehow fit into that? Could there be a next step meeting with the workforce that addressed the employers, and then finally our annual meeting where he would speak to everyone? I don't know. Does that all fit together?
Another speaker at that meeting was the regional president of the Fed.
Yeah.
Right.
Would he be a candidate?
That was a very involved process, and initially they said he would be there for 10 minutes, and but he does live here. I mean, that would be certainly at a level that might draw a larger.
What was his name? Matthew?
No, John. Yeah. And he came through Peter Taylor from the Berkshire Taconic Foundation. So, but I do have his two staff people's contact, and I can find out if that would be something he would entertain. Because, I mean, that would certainly be a draw at a level that we probably haven't had, I love Hugh Johnson, he's a dear friend, but he's not the head of the Fair Fed. Okay, so I think what we're looking at is how do you get down to the economy of the region and the county, not the economy of the state and the nation and the global economy? And then how do you tie it into what businesses need and how organizations like CEDC and its partners can support those needs?
I think that's good options there.
Yeah. And I think, without checking all those boxes, without bringing someone that appears to be political, even if they're not, but by the nature of their job, they could appear to be.
Okay, so
We've got to really decide this by February 15th. You really need to give people 60 plus.
So you're thinking of a Chris Nodone or this other guy who you guys?
Yeah, the other guy would probably be
Even
even
you're
better.
more
Yeah.
younger one.
Even better, but either one of them would be great.
Okay.
And then if he comes, we might sell $25 tickets to the breakfast.
Yeah, we want someone that's inspiring for like.
Free
our-
breakfast. No,
Now we gotta pay for it.
consider,
So it
in the
seems
past, consider it as
we're really doing
prepaid.
something.
That's just it.
You don't want someone that's too humorous.
What we're doing
What we're
about
doing,
that.
yeah.
They were both wonderful at the workforce seminar.
Well, I think two things. One, the draw of a president of the Fed is a significant, positions us as an organization that has a lot of pizzazz. while the speakers that we were talking about from the workforce meeting, are people who have the ability to really relate to the audience. So but let's see what we can find and go.
Who
from there.
can reach out to you? Would reach out to
Yeah,
them.
I kept the staff contacts and we LinkedIn and all that stuff because I figured at some point we would want to check with them again. But I remember his staff was much more cautious about his engagement because he stayed for an hour and a half.
Mhm.
When they said that, there was one discussion that can only come for 10 minutes, but maybe we'll have it on another time.
It was a good meeting, very engaged.
Or maybe he has a lot to say. So
What's
it's-
that?
Maybe he has a lot
Yeah.
to say, so it's a perfect
Maybe.
speaker.
Well, you might want us to move it to a Friday because I think part of the attraction was because he acknowledged that he basically ran the Fed out of his house in Claverick during COVID because no one went to the office. Okay,
Great, okay, staffing.
otherwise
update.
we'll get Al Roker. No.
We can always try. Staffing update, now we can get.
Yes,
back
well,
to our
Steve
newest.
Vandenberg joined us a week ago, working with Martha in the loan origination and service program for our SBA and CEDC loan and technical assistance program. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Do you want to just give us a brief overview of your background and
Try to keep it under 30 minutes.
I didn't prepare a PowerPoint, so my apologies, but now 30+ years with Barnes & Noble college booksellers, the last 10 of which as a mentor, supporting over 700 college stores across the country with annual revenue of just over $1 billion for the department. And then I retired from that in 2020 and then joined the healthcare consortium last June, working with them, serving those in the community in need, and have now looked forward to joining this organization, continuing in my service.
Welcome.
Thank you.
well, with Steve's business background in the private sector and also his mentoring, Martha and I thought that he'd be a great addition with respect to not only helping us with, now that we're over 100 loans, the process and procedures that occur in a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar corporate business, but also from the mentoring standpoint, working with the clients, helping to coordinate the technical assistance providers, and working in follow-up with some of our clients. We still have a very clean portfolio in terms of delinquencies, but in the past, we found that when someone was struggling, they get some additional technical assistance or mentoring was helpful to them. So we're glad that you're here. We're also glad to welcome today, his first day on the job, Chris Brown. Chris is going to be our affordable housing coordinator. As you know, we have a contract with Columbia County, a 3-year contract, $225,000 to provide the staff support, guidance, and direction for the Board of Supervisors Affordable Housing Task Force. We have our first task force meeting. It's a virtual meeting a week from today at 4 o'clock. We have 12 members of the task force, and we have 10 individuals who are serving as resource advisors to the task force. And what we've done there is we have engaged people who, on the resource advisory board, whose day job it is to support housing. So Ron Kaplan is the designee from the Board of Realtors. Al Valenzuela is from Habitat. Claire Cousin is from the Hudson Catskill Housing Coalition, even though she's also a county supervisor. And so we felt that those organizations were calling and saying our board really wants us to be involved and participate. But the theory was that if they comprised the task force, we would not have any community or business leaders from throughout the county. We will have, they will all have access to the Zoom call and the rest of the world will be connected to a YouTube link that they can send in questions on chat. I didn't think we needed 180 people on the meeting call. We'll see how that works. The county is very excited about it. Chairman Morrell will do a welcome. He's appointed Stuyvesant Supervisor Ron Knott and Canaan Supervisor Brenda Adams as the co-chair. There are only 2 supervisors on the task force, so that we're treating them as public meetings, but it's not a meeting of the Board of Supervisors or a committee of the Board of Supervisors. So we're excited about that. Chris, if you could just give us a brief summary of your background.
Yeah, I'll just stick to the relevant parts, I guess. So about midlife, I made a switch from retail. I never forget about that. I switched from retail to urban planning. I was a planner in State Shore for about 6.5 years. While I was there, I co-founded the land bank that's operating in Shore, the Shore Land Bank. And I was the director of operations there for about 5 years. Went down to Sarasota by accident for about a year. Decided while I was there that I wanted to move back to New York, live in the Hudson Valley, specifically Hudson, and work somewhere in affordable housing. So it took a little while, but 2 years moving back, I found the right spot. Most recently, I was with the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission. I was a community planner there, so I'm very used to going out to individual towns and speaking to them about what they can do to make it easier to build housing in their communities. We're excited to bring that same kind of approach over here. I have a lot of questions and suggestions that we'll get to.
Great. Well, welcome. I did bring up the employee handbook and looking at our policies and procedures. We're also looking at reviewing our websites. There's some new guidelines were issued last fall by the Authority Budget Office that we're making sure that we comply with. The auditors were in last week for a preliminary meeting. We'll have an update for the Finance Committee next week. Several of the things that we're looking at is have we appropriately booked the Columbia Forward funding? That's $150,000 a year for 3 years. When that money came in, we booked it where the revenue for CEDC was included, but the $65,000 that goes to the chamber was booked as a due to chamber. We also have booked $42,500 of the Columbia Forward money and $38,000 of the Columbia Forward grant money as deferred income, so that it didn't overstate our financials for 2022, because the program, although the contract provided for payment, $150,000 of payment in 2022, we only started the program in July. It's a 3-year program, so we'll be providing services in 2025, where we thought it would end in 2024. So we'll continue to, we hope that we'll be able to hold that as deferral income. On the grant money, we held $38,000 because we only awarded $14,000 in grants. So if we report it as income this year and make the grants next year, it'll distort next year's expenses. We also have the issue of the money that the county directed to us for the purchase of the property on 9H, which did close in December. So we're now the proud owner of a property, and we did add it to our insurance company policies for liability purposes. The fact that we're holding money for the county from previous sales, and because they directed the IDA to transfer the net proceeds of the Lot 8 sale, $88,400. Will those now be converted to income for CEDC because the county directed us how to spend them? And if so, how does that get booked? And you may recall that this is the 5th year on the Flanders grant, which if they certify that they've met all of the requirements and we review it and agree with them, but we have to forgive that. It's a loan, but now we forgive it as a grant. And we're gonna take a $200,000 forgiveness of indebtedness expense on the balance sheet and therefore the P&L. So, we're trying to work with the accountants because there were, the books are very clean. Kat's done an excellent job with the day-to-day operating expenses. But these transactions that have a level of complexity is something that we've been working with on. On broadband, we did file the FCC challenge based on how the FCC defined the criteria. There were only 72 addresses that we could challenge, but that sounds like we have 1,000 addresses. Why do we only get to challenge 72? Part of that is that the FCC list was in pretty good shape. The other is that there is an issue with respect to if you're served by satellite.
I think a 4G and 5G, the cellular was what they included.
That they included that you could you could get broadband off your phone. We're obviously that's something we work closely with the New York State Connects office and Don Meltz at the county and Patrice Perry at both in the planning office were very supportive in allowing Don to do all the mapping and actually file the submission. We do a follow-up call with New York Connects at 10 this morning on that. There's still about 1,000 addresses. There's about 300 that will be covered under the USDA grant, as well as the Austerlitz and Ghent broadband expenditures from ARPA. So that brings us down to about 700 addresses. The Consolidated had recently done a merger of that needed PSC approval, and they agreed to do 100 addresses in Chatham. So now we're down to 600 addresses. So we're whittling it down from what was over six.
What was the first number?
That's 6,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what the county assumed we had.
And
3 years ago.
6 years ago. Yeah. So, and I think, Jessica, did you have a quick update on the strategic plan and Columbia Forward, please?
So coming forward, we have been looking at developing and sort of report, progress report for 2022 to the Board of Supervisors at their economic development. So working with the chamber on capturing all the activities, which we'll share with once that timeline. We also, part of that, put together sort of goals for 2023 and what we want to accomplish. So we're working on finalizing that. So far, we have met with 12 out of the 18 supervisors, or communicated with them anyway. The economic development committees are very excited and anxious that they have another resource. We had a call last week with the village of Kinderhook. They have received some grants, the first has been on administering grants. Sort of the CEDC and GDP play a role with that. So we're still pushing that out as well. So it's been going good. I think having, really when we're out there and we talk about CEDC going forward and really what the role we play is that we control facility, right? Where we make connections, we are a resource for economic development. It's been, I think, so far well received.
We also had further conversations with the state with respect to the request from the 7th Street Park not-for-profit. And it appears that they're not able to borrow the money from anyone to be able to do that. So they were grateful that we were willing to entertain it, but it looks like we slipped out. So, that we wouldn't have to bring it back to the board for further conversation at this time. And we also will Finance Committee asked for approval to recommend the entering into the 2023 contract with the county for the basic services. And we will get that on the agenda for next Monday's Economic Development Committee meeting of the Board of Supervisors and their February meeting for approval. That is, those funds are in the county budget, and so it's almost ministerial to get the document in place, but the auditors will need it at the end of the year. And they've signed the contract for housing, and again, that's in place as well.
Okay. Thank you. Any other business?
I would like to ask for a brief executive session to discuss matters relating to staff. Before we
Do we have anybody listening? No. Okay.
Before we go into executive session, one minor thing, this with the board terms, Sean Sawyer's name needs to be added.
Thank you.
Motion to go into executive session.
Thank you all.